Jack Mike stood waiting in his cleanest shirt and a hat that had seen too many summers. The noon stage from Abilene was late, again. He shifted the small bouquet of prairie lilies in his hand, feeling awkward. A rancher wasn't meant for flowers or waiting. He was meant for fences and cattle. But the letter tucked inside his vest said otherwise, words written in a tidy, hopeful hand, signed Clara Holt. After a year of lonely suppers and empty winters, those letters had been sunlight. The whistle came first, thin through the dry wind, then the stagecoach itself, 6 horses charging down the hill in a cloud of ochre dust. Children ran beside the street, dogs barked, and the station master hobbled forward waving his ledger. Jack took a breath. This is it. When the coach groaned to a stop, the door swung open, and everything he expected unraveled. The first passenger down wasn't gentle or shy. She was tall, sunburned, wrapped in a long coat that hid the shape of her frame. Her boots hit the ground like gunshots, her eyes scanning the street in quick, sharp glances. A revolver hung at her hip, bold, unhidden. The second man out, a stranger in a bowler hat, tipped his brim politely and hurried away. No other woman followed. Jack blinked. Miss Holt? The woman's gaze landed on him, hard and unreadable. After a heartbeat, she smiled, just enough to pass for friendly. That'd be me, she said. Clara Holt. Her voice carried the gravel of someone who'd lived more miles than her letters ever suggested. He hesitated, manners warring with instinct. Ma'am, I'm Jack Mike. Welcome to Dry Creek. Pleasure, she answered, already reaching for her satchel. It looked too heavy for a lady's things. Jack stepped forward. Here, let me. I've got it, she snapped, then softened the edge. Been carrying my own weight a long while. He nodded, unsettled but polite. Maybe the journey had been rough. Maybe frontier women were tougher than he imagined. Behind him, the station master eyed her coat, then whispered to the telegraph clerk, That ain't no bride, that's a gunslinger. Jack ignored him, guiding her toward his wagon. The horses snorted, uneasy. They left town as the sun bled toward the west. Dry Creek shrank behind them, swallowed by the red horizon. For a while, neither spoke. Wheels rattled, cicadas screamed. Roxy, though he didn't know that name yet, watched every ridge and shadow, one hand resting near her hip. Her face, half hidden beneath the brim of her hat, was beautiful in a wild, dangerous way. Finally, Jack broke the silence. Wasn't sure you'd really come. Why's that? Well, most women read dust, sweat, and a man with 2 bad knees and pick some banker in Abilene instead. Maybe I like dust? He chuckled, then glanced at her hands. Calloused. A faint scar ran along her wrist, not the hands of a woman who embroidered letters by lamplight. An hour out, thunder rolled far off. The sky darkened, the smell of rain thick in the air. Jack pulled his hat lower. Storm's coming. We'll make it to the ranch before dark if the river's low. You got much land? She asked. 200 acres of stubborn soil and cattle with more attitude than sense. Sounds like home, she said quietly, almost to herself. Her words hung there, soft but strange. When lightning split the sky, a lone rider appeared on the ridge to their left. Roxy stiffened. Her hand slid inside her coat. Fast, practiced. Jack caught the movement. Easy now, he said carefully. Probably a drifter. The rider watched them a moment, then turned away. Still, Roxy's eyes stayed fixed on the ridge until it disappeared. Jack exhaled. You sure handle yourself quick for a lady. A woman travels alone long enough, she learns, she said. He smiled faintly. Guess I picked a strong one then. She didn't answer. By the time they reached Mike Ranch, the storm had broken. Rain sheeted down, thunder echoing across the prairie. Jack led her inside the longhouse, where the hearth still smelled of last night's fire. "Ain't much, but it's solid," he said, hanging his hat. "Solid's good," she murmured, dripping water on the floorboards. He lit a lamp. The flame flickered over her face. Beneath the dirt and weariness, he saw the curve of a smile, not soft, but alive. He pointed toward the spare room. "You can dry off in there. I'll rustle some supper." She hesitated. "Thank you." As she walked past, something metallic clinked beneath her coat. Jack pretended not to hear it. Later, over stew and coffee, they sat across the table, silence thick between spoonfuls. Outside, the storm battered the roof. Inside, the lamplight turned gold on her hair. "You wrote real kind letters," he said finally. "Didn't expect you'd sound so different." She looked up slowly. "Folks write who they wish they were." "Reckon that's true," he said. Her gaze softened a fraction. "You're not what I expected, either." "How so?" "Too decent." He laughed under his breath. "Don't know whether to thank you or be worried." She smiled for real this time, quick, unguarded, and the room felt warmer. After supper, he fetched a blanket for her bed. When he returned, she was standing by the window, staring into the storm. Her reflection glimmered against the glass. Calm face, eyes full of something hunted. "Can't sleep when it rains?" he asked. "Just listening," she said. "Rain covers noise, makes it easier to think." She turned. "You ever done something you can't take back, Jack?" He paused. "Everyone has. Question is whether you try to fix it." She nodded slowly, like those words meant more than he knew. "Good night," she said softly. When the door shut, he stared at the space she'd left, uneasy. There was kindness in her, he could feel it, but also danger coiled tight beneath her calm. Midnight. Lightning flashed through the windows. Jack woke to hoofbeats outside. He rose, grabbed his rifle, and stepped onto the porch. Rain hammered down, the yard was empty. Then he saw it, fresh tracks leading toward the riverbank, small, light, from a woman's boots. He followed them halfway before the storm washed them away. When he returned, the lamp in her room was still burning. He opened the door quietly. Roxy lay fully dressed on the bed, revolver on the pillow beside her. Asleep, but ready for war. He shut the door gently. At dawn, the storm broke, and sunlight spilled across the fields. Jack saddled his horse, mind heavy with questions. She joined him outside, hair damp, coat clean. "You were out late," he said carefully. "Couldn't sleep, walked a bit." "Out past the barn?" "Maybe." Her tone dared him to ask more. He didn't. Instead, he handed her a cup of coffee. "You plan on staying a while?" "Depends," she said. "You still want a wife?" He studied her face, the challenge in her eyes. "Maybe I just want the truth." "Truth's a hard thing to live with," she said. By afternoon, Dry Creek stirred with fresh gossip. The sheriff's horse clopped down Main Street, mud splashing against the jailhouse steps. Inside, a young deputy pinned a new wanted poster to the wall. Roxy Harper, $1,000 reward armed and dangerous. Last seen boarding the Abilene Dry Creek coach. The sheriff read the name twice, then reached for his hat. "Guess I'll pay Mr. Mike a friendly visit." Back at the ranch, clouds rolled in again. Jack was repairing the corral fence when he saw a figure riding hard from town. The sheriff. He wiped his hands, heart tightening. Inside the house, Roxy was humming softly, folding her few belongings. The hoofbeats grew louder, thunder cracked behind them. Jack looked toward the porch, then at the woman inside, the outlaw he'd welcomed as his bride, and for the first time he didn't know which he feared more, the law at his gate, or losing the only person who'd made the hollow feel alive again. The storm hadn't fully passed. Dark clouds still lingered over Dry Creek, heavy and bruised, as the sound of hooves grew louder through the rain-soaked field. Jack Mike stood at the edge of the porch, boots sinking in the mud, eyes fixed on the lone rider cutting through the haze. Lightning flashed. The badge glinted. Sheriff Colt Granger. Jack swallowed hard. He'd known Colt for years. A good man, fair, but the kind who'd hang you by sunrise if the law said so. Inside the house, a lamp flickered against the window. Roxy was still there, the woman who called herself Clara Holt, the woman who'd stepped off the stagecoach with a gun under her coat and a past she couldn't outrun. Jack's heart thudded. He wiped the rain from his brow and muttered, "Lord, don't let this be what I think it is." The sheriff pulled up near the porch, dismounted, and tipped his hat. "Afternoon, Jack," he said, voice steady. "Heard you got company." Jack forced a small grin. "Yeah. My mail-order bride finally showed." Colt's eyes flicked to the window. "That right?" "Sure is." The sheriff reached into his coat, rain dripping from his fingers, and held out a folded poster. "Then maybe you can help me out. Look familiar?" Jack hesitated before taking it. It was damp, the ink smeared but clear enough, a sketch of a woman's face, fierce eyes beneath a wide-brimmed hat. The name below turned his stomach cold. Roxy Harper, $1,000 reward, armed and dangerous. Jack looked up slowly. "You reckon she's around here?" Colt shrugged. "Stagecoach driver swore he saw a woman like this on his last run from Abilene. Said she got off right here in Dry Creek." He paused. "You wouldn't have seen a lady traveling alone, maybe carrying more steel than sewing needles?" Jack forced a laugh that didn't sound right. "Can't say that I have. Just the woman I was expecting." Colt studied him. His eyes were sharp, reading lies like tracks in mud. Then he smiled. A sheriff's smile, kind on top, dangerous underneath. "Well, if you do see her, you let me know. Word is she robbed the Abilene Express, rode out with $5,000 in bonds and 2 bodies left behind." Jack's chest tightened. 2 bodies. He thought of Roxy, calm, watchful, scarred. He didn't see a killer. He saw someone who'd run too long. Colt mounted his horse again. "You take care now, Jack." "Will do." The sheriff turned his horse toward town, and for a second Jack almost breathed again. Then Colt stopped. He looked back. "Oh, one more thing. The driver said she was headed to a ranch outside town, a place owned by a man named Mike." Their eyes locked. Neither moved. Then Colt tipped his hat again, spurred his horse, and rode off through the rain. Jack stood there a long moment, pulse hammering. The thunder swallowed the sound of retreating hooves. Inside, Roxy was standing by the table when he came in, revolver in her hand, her face pale but defiant. What did he say? "Enough," Jack muttered, shutting the door. "He's looking for you." "Then you should have turned me in." "I ain't that kind of man." She lowered the gun slightly. "You don't know what kind I am." "No," he said, "but I know you didn't write the letters you pretended to." She looked away, jaw tightening. "Guess you figured that out." "Yeah," he said softly, "but I'm starting to think maybe I got the better deal anyway." That made her look up. For a heartbeat, something unguarded flickered in her eyes. Then she holstered the gun. "You're a fool, Jack Mike." Maybe, but I don't hang women in my living room, and that's what'll happen if you stay. Lightning flashed through the window. He could see the struggle in her face, pride against fear. I didn't kill anyone, she said finally. Then what happened? My brother did. The words came out broken, like she'd been holding them too long. We were just trying to get enough money to leave Kansas. The boys thought the payroll coach would be carrying gold. I was supposed to drive the wagon, not shoot. But when the gunfire started, he panicked, killed 2 guards. She swallowed hard. I took the fall so he could run. He was just 17. And the $5 grand? Never saw a cent. The gang scattered, and the sheriff pinned it all on me. Jack sat down slowly. And now you're here. She nodded. Trying to disappear. Figured a lonely cowboy looking for a wife was the safest lie I could find. He rubbed his chin. Well, you sure picked the wrong cowboy. I got a conscience and a neighbor who's the law. Roxy's smile was tired. Yeah, my luck's about as bad as it gets. They sat in silence, listening to the rain tap the windows. Finally, Jack stood. You can't stay here. He'll be back. Where would I go? North Trail leads to the canyon. There's an old cave past the creek, dry enough to hold up a night or 2. You'd help me? I'd help the truth. That's all. He pulled his hat from the peg. Pack light. We ride before dawn. When the first gray light touched the horizon, they saddled up. The land was quiet, soaked in silver mist. Jack led the way, Roxy behind him, cloak pulled tight. The prairie stretched endless and wet, the air cool with the scent of sage. For a while, it almost felt peaceful. 2 riders against the dawn. Then came the distant echo of hooves. Jack turned. On the far ridge, 3 riders in brown coats, the sheriff and his men. They found us, Roxy whispered. Jack's jaw set. Hold tight. He dug his heels in, and the horses bolted. The chase tore across the open range, mud flying, wind screaming in their ears. Bullets cracked behind them. Jack fired once into the air, not to hit, just to warn. They veered toward the canyon where the ground dipped low and the trees grew thick. Lightning flashed overhead, splitting the sky in 2. There's a bridge ahead, Jack shouted. I see it. The horses thundered across the narrow wooden planks, just as the sheriff's men reached the ridge behind them. A shot rang out. Roxy cried out, gripping her arm. Blood streaked her sleeve. Keep riding, Jack yelled. But she was slipping. He swung off his horse, caught her as she fell, and pulled both animals into the cover of the pines. Easy, easy, he said, lowering her to the ground. She hissed as he tore a strip from his coat and pressed it against the wound. It's just a graze, she muttered through clenched teeth. You sure? I've been shot before. Well, you're bleeding on my jacket, so try not to make it a habit. That earned a weak laugh. Thunder rolled again, closer now. The sheriff's men were cutting through the trees. Jack helped her up. We gotta move. Where? Cave ain't far. Follow the creek. The storm hit hard. Rain slashed sideways, wind howling like a freight train through the ravine. They stumbled through the mud, branches whipping their faces. Behind them, Colt's voice cut through the thunder. Roxy Harper, give yourself up! She flinched but didn't stop. Jack gripped her arm, pushing her forward. Come on, you're not dying for a mistake. They reached the canyon mouth just as lightning lit the land like day. An opening in the rock yawned ahead, the old cave Jack had mentioned. They ducked inside, soaked and gasping. Roxy collapsed against the wall, clutching her arm. Jack dropped beside her, catching his breath. Outside, rain roared over stone. "You could still turn me in," she said quietly. "Could," he answered, "but I ain't the sheriff. You'll lose everything helping me. Ain't got much left to lose." For a long moment, the only sound was the storm. Then Roxy spoke again, her voice low. "The man who started that gunfight, my brother, he's still out there. Maybe if I can find him, make him confess. You think the law'll listen?" "They'll listen if you're the one telling them." He looked at her. This woman who'd lied, fought, bled, and somehow made him care more than he should. "You trust me that much?" he asked. "No," she said softly, "but I trust what I see in your eyes." He wanted to answer, but before he could, a faint crunch echoed outside. Boots on wet gravel. They both froze. Jack reached for his rifle. Roxy drew her revolver left-handed. The shadows outside shifted. A voice called out, calm, clear, unmistakable. "Jack Mike, I know you're in there." Lightning flashed, revealing Sheriff Colt Granger standing at the cave mouth, rifle raised, rain glinting off his badge. "Step aside, Jack," he shouted. "The woman's wanted dead or alive. Don't make me pick which." Thunder cracked overhead. Roxy's breathing quickened. Jack's grip tightened on the rifle. He looked at her, the outlaw who wasn't supposed to exist in his story, then back at the lawman framed by lightning. 2 lives, 2 kinds of justice, only one choice. And as the storm howled around them, Jack realized peace was further away than ever. Lightning split the canyon again, turning the cave mouth white. Sheriff Colt Granger stood in that flash, hat brim dripping, rifle steady. Inside, Jack Mike planted himself between the law and the outlaw, rain running down his face. "Step aside, Jack," Colt barked. "She's wanted dead or alive." Jack's voice was rough. "She ain't what that poster says, Colt." "You letting a pretty face blind you?" "No, sir. Just don't shoot a soul till you've heard the truth." The sheriff hesitated. Thunder rolling through the canyon like judgment. Behind Jack, Roxy Harper rose from the shadows, left arm bound with a blood-soaked bandage, revolver low at her side. Her voice cut through the storm. "Don't make him pick, Sheriff. If you're taking someone in, make it me." Colt's eyes narrowed. "That the confession I'm waiting on?" She nodded once. "But it ain't the story on that paper." They moved deeper into the cave, firelight from Colt's lantern painting their faces gold. Rain hissed outside, fading to a soft curtain. Roxy sat against the stone wall, trembling but steady-eyed. "The Abilene coach job. It was my brother Eli," she began. "He was a fool. 17. Thought guns could fix hunger. I drove the wagon. When the guards drew first, he panicked." Her breath hitched. 2 men died. He dropped the money and ran. I stayed. Figured the law would hang the first Harper they found. Might as well be me." Colt studied her in silence, thumb rubbing the edge of his badge. "You expect me to believe that out of mercy?" Jack spoke quietly. "She could have killed me 10 times since Abilene, Colt. Instead, she patched fence, fed my stock, and near got herself shot again running from your men." The sheriff's jaw worked. He'd chased enough killers to know the look of one. "This woman didn't have it. Still, law was law." He sighed. "You're both coming back to Dry Creek. If the story holds, we'll find the boy. If not..." He didn't finish. He didn't need to. Roxy nodded. "All right." Dawn found them on the trail, the storm spent, the sky pale and bruised. Roxy rode between the men, coat torn, eyes fixed on the horizon. Jack kept close, watchful, guilt heavy in his chest. The prairie smelled of wet grass and smoke from dying fires. Every hoofbeat sounded like a verdict. By midday, the rooftops of Dry Creek rose from the plain, sunlight flashing on the telegraph wire. Folks stopped and stared. The sheriff bringing in a woman in shackles, and beside her the rancher who'd once sworn he'd never take sides. Outside the jailhouse, Colt dismounted. "You'll have your say before sundown," he told her. "That's all I ever wanted," Roxy answered. Word spread faster than wind. By evening, half the town crowded the square. Roxy stood on the steps, wrists bound, hair whipping across her face. Jack stood off to the side, hat low, mud on his boots. Colt faced the crowd. "This woman's charged with the Abilene Express killings. She claims her brother fired the shots. Anyone here know the name Eli Harper?" A murmur ran through the people, then a voice from the edge. "I do." Heads turned. A gaunt young man stumbled forward, dust-covered, eyes hollow. Roxy's breath caught. "Eli?" He looked at her, ashamed, broken. "I heard they were hanging you for what I'd done." He pulled a crumpled envelope from his coat. "These are the bonds. Never spent 'em. I kept 'em. Figured I'd turn myself in one day." Colt took the envelope, checked the seal, then looked up slowly. "You just did." Eli dropped to his knees. Roxy pressed a shaking hand to her mouth. The crowd fell silent as the sheriff snapped the irons on the boy's wrists. "Miss Harper," Colt said, "looks like your name's yours again." That night, the town slept under clear stars for the first time in weeks. Jack waited by the hitching post outside the jail. When Colt came out, he handed Jack Roxy's revolver, handle first. "She's free to go. Says she's leaving before daylight." Jack frowned. "Where?" "Didn't say. Somewhere the name Harper don't weigh so heavy." Colt mounted his horse. "You did right, Jack. Don't mean it won't hurt." He rode into the dark, leaving the echo of hooves fading east. Before dawn, Roxy stood by the stable, packing a small saddlebag. Her arm was healing. The scar would stay, same as the memories. Jack approached quietly. "Could use another hand at the ranch," he said. She smiled faintly. "I'm no ranch hand." "Could learn. And you'd trust an outlaw with your herd?" "A free woman," he corrected. "Not an outlaw." She looked away toward the mountains turning gold. "If I stay, folks'll always see the poster before they see me." "Let 'em look. They'll learn." "You really believe that?" "I believe people change." Her eyes softened. "You're a good man, Jack Mike. That's rarer than gold out here." He tried to speak, but she stepped close, laid a hand on his chest. "Don't wait for letters this time." Then she kissed his cheek. Quick, warm, final. Mounted her horse, and with a tug of reins, rode out as the sun broke over Dry Creek. He watched her silhouette shrink across the plain, dust rising behind her like smoke from an old fire finally dying out. Weeks later, Jack rebuilt the north fence. The fields had turned green again. The cattle grazed quiet. Every so often, the mail coach from Abilene stopped at the ranch gate. No letters, just the driver tipping his hat. But one morning, wrapped in twine, he handed Jack a small parcel. Inside lay a single silver button from Roxy's coat and a note written in a careful hand. "The road's long, but freedom rides with me now. If the wind ever carries me home, I'll find the man who believed when no one else would." R.H. Jack read it twice, then tucked the button into his vest pocket. He looked out over the horizon where the prairie met the sky and smiled, quiet and proud. The West moved on, as it always did. But some promises stayed, carried by the wind.